I call the Minister to wind up the debate.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. Let me just thank all those who have contributed to this brief but very lively debate, starting with the Honourable Member for Liverpool Walton. And let me thank him and thank the Labour Party for their support on this measure and for their agreement not merely to the substance of the proposal but also to the need for a delay. I think that's absolutely right. And I think they should be congratulated on this very bipartisan approach to what is an important public issue. The Honourable Gentleman raised the Taylor Review. That's been picked up by several other members. The Government wholeheartedly agrees. The Taylor Review made 53 recommendations, the vast majority of which were accepted by the Government, and several of them have already been put into place. The question of a delay I have already covered in my speech, and I would encourage all members who would like a further delay to reflect on the points I made. That is the intrinsic unfairness of taxing two people differently for the same work, the disparity that it would continue between the private and public sectors, and the significant fiscal cost that would be involved in doing so. The Honourable Lady for Glasgow Central spoke of a review. She should be perfectly clear. I have at no point discussed a further review. We have had a review earlier this year, contrary to what the member for Kingston and Surbiton said. That was a perfectly good faith discharge of a commitment made during the general election. The review involved a very wide range of different parties discussing how the reforms could be effectively implemented, and several important changes were made as a result of that. And of course it follows two processes of consultation, draft legislation and a full previous, as it were, pre-legislative history. So we are not talking about a further review. We are talking about two pieces of research, one in the year to come before April 2021, which will look at the long-term effect on the public sector. And of course it's entirely appropriate to look at the public sector reform, because that is the major case in which these reforms have been put in place, and it has lent to a significant improvement in the fiscal position relative to those involved, and that's all to the good as well from the taxpayer standpoint. And of course there's a second process of research which I've mentioned, which will come at the end after this has been introduced, and will be, as it were, an early take on the effects of the private sector within the first 6 to 12 months of the introduction of this reform. The Honourable Member for Bethnal Green and Bow raised the issue of whether or not we could not go further. Well, of course, the Government's gone much further. We've essentially had 3 budgets already this year, given the astonishing measures that the Treasury has taken and across government to support businesses and people and families during the coronavirus crisis. But this resolution and this finance bill are designed to bring into law the budget that we had in March, and that's what it does. Finally, let me just remind the House that this is a measure which will be not merely one that improves the fairness and the equity involved in the system, but also one that allows us to fund our public services better, and those are services on which all of us across parties and across this country deeply rely.
Thank you. I announced to the House early this afternoon the provisional determination that a remote division would not take place on the question now before the House. That is also the Speaker's final determination. The question is the motion on the Finance Bill, Ways and Means, as on the order paper. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.